We've talked on this channel about some of Disney's most iconic spin-off series, so I was really excited to revisit the one we're going to discuss today, one that completely ignored its movie's continuity. Buckle up, because the time has come. It's about to get good. Hi, I'm Dr. Panda, the only panda ever captured by Hades. And in this video, we're going to talk about the Hercules animated series. What was it about? Why did this series dramatically ignore the movie's continuity? Confirmed by the show's producer. And wait, was there a sequel movie? We'll cover all that and more in this video, so let's get started. The Hercules animated series premiered in syndication in 1998 and takes place roughly during the events of the movie. Hercules is a teenager dealing with typical teen struggles like peer pressure and learning about responsibility, while also grappling with his mythological nature. At this point, Hercules is starting to show his heroism, but he's still clumsy and sometimes incapable of controlling his strength. He's joined by his two friends Icarus and Cassandra, with the latter being a great character for the plot of some episodes thanks to her special ability. But let's start with Icarus. Icarus is Hercules' best friend, whose brain got fried from flying too close to the sun, and most of the time he serves as comic relief. He's clumsy and hopelessly in love with Cassandra, though the feeling is far from mutual. Not that it stops him from convincing himself otherwise. Cassandra is antisocial and has occasional visions of the future, usually bad ones. I really like this because it works similarly to what we saw in That's So Raven. Cassandra foresees something terrible that's about to happen, which acts as a tease for what's coming later in the episode. A perfect example is the episode Hercules and the King of Thessaly, where the tyrannical king of Thessaly is overthrown by Zeus for impersonating the Greek god, so the people crown Hercules as their new king. Except Cassandra has a vision of the town being destroyed, but nobody listens to her. Fast forward 20 minutes into the episode, and her prophecy comes true, though not necessarily in the way you might have expected at first. The series also brings back most of the characters from the movie, like Phil, Zeus, and the rest of the Greek gods, most of whom get a moment to shine in episodes that focus on them individually. It also brings back the Muses, and in fact, the series is pretty much a musical series since most episodes feature original songs that, by the way, are pretty catchy. Even Meg makes a comeback, but we'll get to that in a bit. And obviously, Hercules wouldn't be Hercules without his eternal rival, Hades, who's still the same flamboyant, quick-tempered, and manipulative villain we all love. And if his voice sounds just like in the movie, that's because voice actor James Woods returned to reprise his role, keeping the character just as iconic as ever. And while we're at it, the original voices for Hercules, Pain, and Panic also returned. And here's the thing. Thanks to these returns, especially James Woods, the producers were in for a huge surprise while working on the show, because tons of celebrities reached out wanting to be part of it. Over 150, in fact. So let's talk about some of the most notable ones. There's an episode where Hercules sculpts a statue out of clay to be his perfect girl, and Aphrodite brings her to life to be his date for the dance. You might remember it because a scene from this episode has actually gone somewhat viral on social media lately thanks to a meme. Well, the girl's name is Galatea, and she's voiced by none other than Jennifer Aniston. And as it turns out, Jennifer Aniston's participation might have an explanation. The voice actor for Hercules, Tate Donovan, was reportedly in a romantic relationship with her at the time, and he even appeared on Friends as Joshua, so chances are there was a personal invitation or something along those lines. And speaking of Friends, Lisa Kudrow also appeared in the series, voicing Aphrodite in 4 episodes, including the one where Jennifer Aniston was on.
One dance after another. Where am I now? Athens?
Possibly also brought in by Donovan. Other guest stars included Patrick Warburton, Paul Rubens, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and even Will Ferrell. Honestly, the list is long and pretty impressive. The series originally had the cursed number of 52 episodes when it was produced for syndication, but 13 more were later made for its run on ABC, bringing the total to 65 episodes, the second cursed episode count. And how good was it? Really good, if you ask me. And no, this isn't just nostalgia talking. When I revisited the series, I expected it to have aged at least a little poorly, or maybe the pacing would feel too slow by today's standards, but I was pleasantly surprised. Sure, it might have a lot of inconsistencies with the original movie, but that doesn't bother me that much. In fact, it might even be a plus, but more on that later. For now, let me just say this. The series is objectively good. First off, the episodes have genuinely clever premises. For example, the very first episode of the series revolves around Hercules and his friends from Prometheus Academy being assigned regular mortal jobs at the mall. Icarus ends up working at Aphrodite's secret while Hercules gets stuck flipping gyros at a fast food joint. Man, I feel like I've mentioned Aphrodite way too much in this video. But then Zeus steps in to secure his son a more godly position, pulling some divine strings to make Apollo let Hercules drive his sun chariot. Hades secretly hijacks the sun, tarnishing Zeus's reputation in the process and nearly getting himself crowned as the new king of Olympus. Then there's that episode where Hippocrates becomes the world's first doctor, reducing the number of souls going to the underworld, which angers Hades. So the Greek god tricks Hercules into spreading the plague, but Hippocrates manages to create a cure. Fed up, Hades kills Hippocrates, leading Hercules and Phil to venture into the underworld to save him. In the end, Hades allows Hercules to take Hippocrates back, but suggests that the doctor charge outrageous amounts for his services and take Wednesdays off to play golf. And this is another thing I love about the series. It uses elements from mythology and history for its stories. Another example of this is the episode Hercules and the Living Legend, where ancient Greece's version of Comic-Con features Achilles, the legendary Greek warrior, except now he's a has-been after the whole arrow to the heel incident, so nobody cares about him anymore. I just love the concept that he went from being an idolized warrior to a washed-up celebrity. It's genius. Plus, as I mentioned before, the series takes the opportunity to explore the Greek gods' characters much more than the movie did, making the Hercules universe feel much deeper. Now that we're talking about the movie, we need to address the elephant in the room. And that elephant is huge, pink, and its name is continuity. Yeah, that elephant isn't in the series because who cares about continuity? Remember when in the movie, Hades sent Pain and Panic to kill baby Hercules and spent 18 years believing they'd successfully completed their mission? That's right. In the film, Hades thought Hercules was dead until Meg revealed the truth. But that's not the case in the series, where Hades literally spends every waking hour keeping tabs on teenage Hercules. The movie even has a specific scene where Hades first introduces himself to Hercules, while in the series they're constantly butting heads. But that's not all. In the 1998 film, Hades has a meticulously calculated plan to conquer Olympus, requiring years of waiting, and even a planetary alignment, while the series Hades cooks up a new scheme every week like he's Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz himself. We should also address how film Hercules becomes an outcast due to his inability to control his strength, and how it's only after training with Phil that he starts performing heroic acts culminating in Zero to Hero, which might just be the film's best song, and also happens to be the series' theme. Yet in the series, Hercules is literally fighting Greek monsters every Saturday morning. The show supposedly takes place during the song One Last Hope, where Phil trains Hercules from scrawny to brawny, despite the fact that his actual heroics weren't supposed to start until the song Zero to Hero. But as it turns out, there's a reason for all this. By the way, if you enjoy the content of this fluffy panda and would like to support the channel, you can become a member by clicking the join button down below and get access to exclusive panda emojis, badges, and even some videos while you're at it. It all began when Tad Stones was working as a producer on the iconic Aladdin animated series and co-directing its two lucrative straight-to-video sequels, when he bumped into directors Ron Clements and John Musker in the Disney animation hallways. They were working on a new film project at the time, and during their encounter, the directors jokingly said, "Hey Tad, we're doing a pilot for a series." That film project was Hercules, and although the movie didn't meet Disney's box office expectations, the company decided to greenlight an animated series, putting none other than their go-to animated TV guru, Tad Stones, in charge. Just in case you didn't know, Stones created Darkwing Duck and produced shows like Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, Aladdin, and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. So yeah, a true childhood legend. While preparing to develop the series, Tad watched Hercules multiple times, but no matter how many times he saw it, he couldn't shake one thought. For the show to work, it couldn't really be a prequel or a sequel. In other words, the series had to be a midquel, meaning its events wouldn't happen before or after the movie, but rather alongside it. But more importantly, Tad and the creative team took deliberate creative liberties to make the series the best version of itself. In Tad's words, by ignoring continuity and trying to stay true to the elements of humor and adventure in the film, we came up with a much stronger series that really stands on its own. And he's right. Hades is Hercules' quintessential villain and one of Disney's most iconic antagonists. If Hades hadn't known Hercules was alive, the series would have needed a different main villain, which would have felt like a massive missed opportunity. Likewise, if they had stuck to the fact that Hercules hadn't performed any heroic acts until adulthood, the series would have had to focus on something other than Hercules being heroic, robbing us of so many memorable episodes where he gets to shine as the hero. The series aired from 1998 to 2011 across various channels like ABC, Toon Disney, and apparently even Disney XD in Canada. And yet, the show didn't end with a regular episode, but rather with a straight-to-VHS movie titled Hercules Zero to Hero. And now, I've got good news and bad news for you. Which do you want first? Doesn't matter because I can't hear you, so I'll just hit you with the bad news first. The bad news is that the movie isn't available on Disney+, and the good news is that you can still watch it on Disney+. Sort of. Bear with me. First off, let's be clear, they didn't exactly strain their brains coming up with this movie's premise. The story follows Hercules and Meg, who are now married and living together after the events of the original film. Meg finds Herc's old high school yearbook, and despite the demigod's embarrassment, they start flipping through it. As Hercules recounts some of his high school adventures, we're treated to 3 episodes from the series, kinda like that Tarzan and Jane movie I covered in my Legend of Tarzan video. I know, cheap, but wait. It gets cheaper, because this straight-to-VHS movie is actually also another episode of the series, more specifically, episode 60 titled Hercules and the Yearbook, which is identical to the movie currently selling on Amazon for up to $45. And I mean it, identical. There's literally just one difference. The episodes shown in the movie are different episodes from those in the series episode for some reason. The episodes shown in the movie are Hercules and the First Day of School, Hercules and the Grim Avenger, and Hercules and the Visit from Zeus, while the ones shown in the TV version are Hercules and the Bacchanal, Hercules and the Apollo Mission, and Hercules and the Dream Date. Plus, the TV version only shows clips from the episodes while the movie includes full versions since it needed a longer runtime to justify parents purchasing it. A strategy worthy of Scrooge McDuck. By the way, remember the Lilo and Stitch series? I revisited its 4 crossover episodes and made a video about it that you can watch right here. Subscribe for more. Dr. Panda out.